same, that we should, be in communion with each other and be understanding. Not in my belief, I wouldn't be like in a subservient form to what I believe is God, but I would want to embody that and see it in others.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can understand and appreciate.
I can understand and appreciate.
So can I appreciate your the feeling towards other human beings or other form of creation in which the empathy, the compassion, the kindness that you are talking about, connectiveness and so on. Now, that element is common to most of people that talk about religion or spirituality or some kind of belief system or ideology. It's very, very common because human beings want to share this similarity of their understanding because it's in our psyche. It's something hardwired within us anyway. This is what we believe. God has instilled within us this natural disposition in which that we know what truth is, we know what justice is, and so on. The only thing that I would say the difference between your particular understanding of belief system or reality to ours is we are not an expression of our Creator, we are a creation of our Creator. At one point we didn't exist. Okay? The Creator only existed and Creator brought us into existence. The fact that He brought us into existence, we were already subservient to Him in every shape and every way because my life is totally dependent on God bringing me into existence and giving me life. So I'm grateful to God already for my life. So it's not like I'm equal to God or God is equal to me. No, I'm already subservient because I didn't have life. Imagine now, to give you a very mundane example, I was in an accident, in a hospital, needed blood, you gave me blood, right? And I regained consciousness and I realized this is what you've done. I could have died without blood or with blood loss. You saved my life. So I should be grateful to you. So I'm already in debt to you. I'm already in debt. I'm not equal to you anymore. I'm in debt because you saved my life. And I'm grateful. My response to you should be one of gratitude and thankfulness. When I'm created and given life, I'm already in debt to God. I'm not equal to God anymore. Yeah? So not only is giving me life, He's given me all the other faculties to enjoy life, to express my love and all the things that we just discussed about, how human fraternity and unity and brotherhood and sisterhood, this is God instilled within us to operate in this life. So I'm thankful. I should be thankful to God. So in this sense, Islam says, God is our Lord. Lord is someone who created us, fashioned us, and guides us and looks after us in a way. Okay? In Surah Al-A'la, okay? سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى. So God is the one who fashioned us and guides us and so on. So we, in that perspective, is already a form of creation who can never consider equality with God. Never. Because I would have been non-existent if God didn't bring me life. I would now fall dead if I'm not able to breathe in oxygen. If I don't drink enough water, I will die. So I'm so much in debt to God. If I were to count the blessings that God has given me, I would not be able to count His blessings. Even my heartbeat, if I were to thank God for every single heartbeat, I would never be able to do so. Because even before I was born, I had heartbeat in the womb of my mother. And I had heartbeats which I had to go back and which I could not to be thankful of. So we cannot be enough grateful and thankful to God for what He's given us. So the idea of we are all equal in the sight of God, share and celebrate this unity and spirituality is actually not in real sense positioned correctly. Our position should be one of understanding who we are to who God is. You and I will pass away one day. We will die, for sure. Whether you are spiritually highly enough or not, we know our physical bodies will disintegrate and we will die. Our souls may live on, but they would still need, if you believe, to live forever, for example, some kind of physical means or in a spiritual means and so on. We believe our souls that has been created will live even to the next life. but again dependent on God. God is ultimately the one who is in owner of it, controller of it. That's why we say he is the Malik of Yawmiddin, the owner of the Day of Judgment, in which every soul that has been brought into this existence has to account for their deeds and their belief. Whether the things that you expressed, were you good to others or were you not? And there are people who are not. They kill, they rape, they torture, they oppress, they steal. And these people, if they don't mend themselves, if they don't rectify themselves, and they live their life and they die, that's not justice.
Nope.
So there will be a day of judgment, we believe in Islam, in which everyone will account for their actions and their belief, and based on that, there will be a place of paradise or hell. Hell, place of torment and suffering, which they made themselves deserve it by disobeying God's commands and his prohibitions. God doesn't prohibit things which are good. God doesn't ask us to do something, command us to do something evil. God commands all that is good. Prohibits that something's bad for us. So even from a common sense perspective, people should have followed it. Those who don't do that, in the day of judgment, they would then deserve the justice and be accountable for their wrong things that they have done, not following what God commanded. But those who do the good actions, be charitable, be nice, be just, be truthful, be compassionate, be merciful, don't cheat, don't lie, don't kill, don't murder, don't rape. All of these things that God's commanded and you keep them, avoid the bad, God has given us glad tidings of paradise in which is joy, peace, contentment, tranquility, happiness. This is what we are aiming for. We are aiming for, in this life, happiness and well-being. But the highest form of our aim should be not only happiness in this life. We say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً. Oh God, our Lord, give us the good in this life as well as the hereafter. Because hereafter is the ultimate abode in which there is life forever. This life is only a momentary life.
I have a question. Do you believe that if you were to pass on to the next life, if you've died but your spirit lives on, do you think that you'd come back as a human being or a different form of being? For example, it could be an animal or a plant, but it could also be maybe somewhere out in the universe there could be another species of being that lives out there. Do you think you could be reincarnated into a completely different being?
We do not believe in reincarnation. We do not believe in reincarnation. We believe there is one life and then there is a next life and that's it. There is no cycle of birth and death. Because that whole idea of cycle and birth, even philosophically, it's not very coherent. Because think about it. You reincarnate into something good because of your previous actions, or into bad because of your previous actions.
What about children that, like, a 4-year-old boy who knows the entire life story of someone that he's never known or met before, but can still recall memories and stories about a past life that they have experienced? And a 4-year-old child wouldn't lie, but there's many of these experiences documented as if they had pulled from a consciousness of a previous life, or perhaps that they're connected in some way. They might even have the same physical attributes or characteristics. So that's why I think a lot of people do believe in reincarnation, because there's that aspect that there are many, many stories of this happening. So part of me wants to believe, and does believe, that reincarnation in some form does exist. Maybe that soul had a tragic end to the life and didn't get to complete what they might have been meant to complete in that lifetime, and then they came back. I feel like I've heard so many stories like this that it's hard for me to believe that we just have this one earthly experience. I believe that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and this is one of the greatest tests. This is one of the greatest tests for our spirits, our eternal spirit, to transcend, to be in a place of bliss forever. So I think that maybe there might be more than one try for some people.
Sure.
Especially
With
if you
all-
were born into really, really difficult circumstances. I feel like your circumstances at birth may heavily affect the way that you live in service to God or to whatever belief system you have. So that's what I think. I think that it's very possible that we could come back more than once, and I don't know if there's necessarily one place that we go to, but it could be that we change into different forms of existence in the future. Like, what if we came back as like a different kind of being, like an alien being or something
Sure.
that we can't fully comprehend because we're only humans. We're using our human brains to notice the world around us, to understand the world around us. And yet we know that there are animals that can see colors that we can't see. We know we can only see a small part of the visible light spectrum, and we can only really experience the third dimension. So I think that there's a lot that we cannot experience that does exist around us. And there is that like mystery aspect. So I'm always wary of making up my mind about what I think is going to happen in the beyond after death, because I don't believe humans are capable of fully understanding that. But while we're here, being in service to others and loving others is the point that almost every spirituality I've ever known of gets to that point. That's the thing that we all share. Living in service to one another, to love another person is to see the face of God. It is to serve another person and to live a good life, to love those that are around you. And I've had trouble with the idea. I appreciate that you explained the idea of like servitude. If I was given life, and that's something that you're endlessly grateful for, that you'll never be able to really be fully thankful for. But I think that you could be simply by living a good life and appreciating everything around you as it's valid and worthy of love and attention and respect. Whether it be a tree or a park where you don't want to throw your plastic trash on the ground because the earth is something that was a gift. It wasn't something that was, if we were created and put here on this earth, the earth is something we should be preserving and loving as much as another person. And that's where I think it's more of a holistic thing. I don't find myself in prayer to a single being, but I do find myself in presence and calm and relationship to the things that are around me, the things and the people that are around me. And I think we get to the same conclusion, although it's two different ways of appreciating life. I feel like this isn't the first time that I've been here. I don't think that this is the first life I've ever had.
Okay. So
Yeah.
if I may, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying. Just to say, I mean, in fact, a lot of things you said towards the end, you'll be surprised. These are Islamic core values.
Yeah.
Core values in which looking after the environment is so essential. Like one of the signs of faith is actually removing a thorn from the path so that it's free for other people being hurt.
For them to be safe,
Yeah.
to look out for others.
Yeah, one of the branches of faith, this is what it is. Looking after the animals and the plants. I mean, we cannot, even in warfare, sometimes when it's a necessity, right? We cannot go, for example, in fighting a war because of all this necessity, and then you destroy their crops, and they're totally forbidden. So Islam, I'm just giving you an example, even to like something like, you might say, in a warfare, you destroy everything of your enemy. He said, no, absolutely not. You don't destroy the cattle, the farms, nothing. They had nothing to do with your, the differences that you're having war with. So Islam asks you to treat holistically, the word you use, everything in the creation. In fact, let me give you two examples. There was a prostitute who was, of course, selling her body for a living, which, in God's ways, not acceptable to live your life accordingly. God has given you a life, not to sell your body, okay? At one point, she saw a thirsty dog, almost dying of thirst. She went to a well and quenched the thirst of the dog. Our Prophet ﷺ said, because of that, God has forgiven her and she'll go to paradise. Just showing how, by showing kindness and mercy to animals. So Islam is not such that it's a belief system in which you just look at a human being's welfare. No, you look after the environment. In fact, we are told that not to even pollute the air and the water and the land and so on, because it's a huge burden that we're placing. So all of the things that you talk about, how to look after the whole world around you, is a part and parcel of Islamic teaching.
That's
Co-teaching, right,
I
good.
really appreciate
So
it,
you can
yeah.
connect to that already. The thing about a 4-year-old boy knowing a lot of things, recollecting and so on, with all due respect, right? Of course I disagree with this idea that we have established way where we have verified some people recounting the past lives and so on and so forth. We hear lots of stories. Just like we hear stories of pastors coming on the stage and they see someone on the wheelchair and says, stand up and walk, and they keep walking.
That's literally an actor that was planted in the audience. But I mean, the
Sure.
the story of the 4-year-old boy is actually very well documented and studied, and they found exactly who the person was, down to like, he was like a German soldier in World War II who crashed in a plane. He landed in Britain and like lost his leg during the accident, and like the child even had a strange birthmark above the same leg that he lost, and he remembered, he drew pictures of all of the medals that this particular soldier had, and he even resembled him. And they found
It's impossible for him to have known this?
and it's impossible for him to
Why
have
is it
known
impossible for him to know?
Because he was a 4-year-old child raised mostly at home with his mother and father who weren't German.
No,
And they
why
lived
is it
in a
impossible for
completely
this
different
connection
country.
to have known that information and to fed that information? To give you an example,
Well, I don't think it's impossible. I'm saying
So
I think that these things that seem impossible are the things that keep me open-minded to not fully believing in one system or another.
No,
I think there's a
what
collection of
what I'm saying is, many of the things we know, just like example of the stage on a wheelchair of a Christian pastor, for example, to a Christian mindset, that's a miracle. They don't see past that. They would not be able to see easily past that. They will say, no, it's a miracle. So there's some kind of, it's not cognitive dissonance, it's something opposite in which they cannot see that actually this could have been manipulated and tricked because of their particular worldview in which they're engulfed in. So that leads them to accept that quite easily. Likewise, someone who is spiritual and has an understanding of reincarnation to be a possibility and so on, it will be easy for them to say, yeah, a 4-year-old can know that. But for a critic, a critical-minded individual will say, okay, is it impossible for them? No. Is it impossible for them to have known by connection from others feeding that information? Because nowadays, for example, we can get a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old giving lectures about human relation between man and woman, how to have conduct sexual relation and so on, because they can be all taught that. They can memorize it on taught. They can be taught in terms of how to say this and so on, whether it's the parents, by themselves and so on. So you cannot simply take that to be because it's all well documented and so on. If that was the case, reincarnation is possible as a belief system, it shouldn't be just one individual. You should be, for example, you, me and others. We should all somehow regain that
Not necessarily.
previous memory.
I think-
Why not?
I
What's
think-
stopping us?
I think that it may be specific to people who've had traumatic deaths or something like that.
What's
and-
stopping us from recollecting our past life, if there was a past life?
And I also think that the point that you're getting at is if we're not to believe others' like lived experience in the way that they're just saying it, because they could just be telling a story, then what we really should be believing is our own lived experience and what the truth that we can derive from that. Which is why I take issue in when someone writes something down and then says that it is the word of God. I have
That's
trouble
the-
with that because
I can understand
it's
that.
the same thing.
But there's a
Because
difference between the
because-
Quran, by the way. We can highlight that.
Sure, but if you do take the time to write down words and then sell it as truth to people, then
evidence.
then it could be the same thing as someone making up a story about their 4-year-old having a past life experience.
When you make a
So,
comparison,
in the way that I feel about my spirituality is being grounded in this present moment and feeling the life that vibrates around me and experiencing love and bliss and experiencing the contrast of life. That's the true lived experience.
what stops you from recollecting your past memory?
I think that we're all human beings with amnesia. I think that we don't remember.
Why not?
I don't think that we can. I don't know that it's natural for